Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 12, Episode 1. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Glad you guys are back with us for this Friday edition of the show. Dave, the Pittsburgh Steelers have reported to and are practicing at 2021 training camp. It still feels weird for me to not be there and be on the outside until next week when the pads come on and practices are public, but we can officially say the 2021 season is underway.
Woohoo! Happy times, right? And less than 2 weeks now from the first preseason game against the Cowboys in the Hall of Fame game, and just a great time, and good to have stuff to write and talk about other than list and what Colin Coward says about Ben Roethlisberger.
Amen to that, and it's a good time for NFL Game Pass to be down. Good time for them.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah, the annual. It seems like that we go through this almost every year as well too. Hopefully they get that straightened out pretty soon.
Yeah. But Dave, we have a ton of news to talk about today. Let's start with definitely the biggest story that's occurred since we last spoke earlier in the week. Vince Williams, 2 days ago on Wednesday, the day the team reported to training camp, he did not report. Instead, he announced his retirement after an 8-year career with the team, former 6th-round pick out of Florida State, a really successful career overall. Been a very interesting offseason with Vince. He got cut as a salary cap casualty earlier in the offseason, was brought back a couple weeks later on a 1-year deal with no guaranteed money, and now has decided to announce his retirement and step away from the game. Reports were whenever he did resign several weeks ago that he was really planning on playing one more year and then retiring and then getting into coaching. We'll see if that's still on the table for him this year or not, but Vince Williams has appeared to have called it a career.
Yeah, and it's like deja vu all over again, right?
Right.
We talked, several or a few months ago, I guess, when he was initially cut about the career of one Vince Williams, and at the time thinking it was indeed, at least his time in Pittsburgh, and waiting to see if he was going to get signed by somebody else, and that obviously didn't happen. He ended up re-signing with the Steelers there. I'm not overly shocked. You know that. I think he. I don't know what changed with him. Obviously, this was a bit of a surprise. At least to Tomlin and teammates Mike Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger and T.J. Watt spoke to the media yesterday, and kind of. I think everybody was kind of a little bit surprised about Vince making that decision. I think maybe he just sat back and going through training camp and the rigors of a season's tough, and maybe he just started looking at things. Some of his tweets over the last, I think, couple weeks, seeing all the guys around him retire and whatnot, and people are allowed to change their mind and have a change of heart, and I think maybe he got there, and I don't know if he made the decision right when he got there, or it was probably something he thought long and hard about, but maybe he read the writing on the wall a little bit on top of it there. So great career, and going back through some of those old scouting reports and all, and seeing that video again of him and that big taking on that lead blocker at the Senior Bowl, that's what really put him on the map for me. That that one play at the Senior Bowl, that highlight, if you will, and I even had him, I think, in mock draft 1.0 that year as my 6th-round pick, and not overly surprising that he ultimately became a Steeler. And boy, you talk about epitome of what you draw up. Really, kind of, I don't know. Is he kind of the last of the old school type Steelers? Alex.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely had the mold that's, today's game is so focused on just speed and sideline-to-sideline ability and coverage and freak athletes. And Vince was never the biggest dude. He was really well built, but he was 6', 233. Everyone thinks he's like 250. He wasn't. He was a pretty small guy, knocked for size coming out, and he certainly wasn't the fastest either, but had a really long, impressive career for being physical, strong against the run, great teammate, a great leader, and a really high football IQ. And so I think that's proof positive that you don't have to be, the freaky athlete, the, JOKs, Isaiah Simmons of the world to have a really strong career. The guys that have those strong careers can easily be the guy with maybe the average, quote unquote, talent and skill set, but someone who works really hard and loves the game and puts in the work. And Vince Williams certainly did all those things.
He certainly did. And, they're going to miss him, I think, in that locker room. And I think Ben and Watt said as much yesterday as well, too. So, great, just great career. You look at the games, you go back and you look at that draft classes of his on Pro Football Reference, and you sort it by games played. He's right up there in the top 20, man. And who would have thought that when he was originally drafted as a 6th-round draft pick there, So made a little bit of money, couple of nice contracts along the way on top of it there. So definitely nothing to be ashamed about there when it comes to his career. And I think one of the big points that at least Roethlisberger, or it was either I think Watt made it, was look, he got to go out on his own terms there, and I think that needs highlighting as well.
Yeah, but you brought up a good point, Dave, about that leadership. And there's still guys, of course, like Joe Hayden, Cam Hayward, Ben, etc. But there's a real potential leadership void, or at least a changing of the guard, just for this entire team. When you lose guys like DeCastro and Pouncey and now Vince Williams, that can't be overlooked either, because those are some really core guys in terms of the locker room presence and the veteran guys. And now you lose a good bit of that this offseason.
Yeah, you just hope some of the guys in there that are older, the Cam Haywards and Tuitt's been around several years now, right. And as you mentioned,
the linebacker room is pretty young.
Right. Absolutely it is. Yeah, absolutely it is. So, but at least they got a guy in that room, and Jerry Olszewski, right? Mm-hmm. To help in that matter as well too there. But, you definitely lose a lot of experience and leadership in that room and that room alone. And hopefully some of those other, defensive, especially on the defensive side of the ball, some of those leaders, some of that carries over, into that room as well too.
So moving forward now, in terms of the guys who are still with the team, it looks like Robert Spillane has a very clear and obvious path to being the starter, and will line up next to Devin Bush in base and nickel defense this year, barring any massive drop in play, and certainly barring any sort of injury. So it'll be Bush and Spillane, with their backups being now 4th-round pick Buddy Johnson, UG3, and Marcus Allen.
Yeah, going to be interesting to watch this play out right now going forward here. It's already kind of tough, even when Vince Williams, or maybe it wasn't tough for some. I know I have had Vince off my 53-man roster prediction. I think the two that I've already done here. I might be the only person that's had that. I don't know, but even drawing it out, and if you were one that had Vince in that, trying to fill out those last, how many are they going to keep? 5? Are they going to keep 4? Do you consider who's the safety I'm drawing? Miles.
Miles Killebrew.
Yeah. Do you consider Miles Killebrew a linebacker or safety, or does it matter? Kind of thing there. How does that affect the numbers on top of it there? You really are, at least I am. I find, and I had a terrible take about this, I don't know how long ago, maybe a week, 2 weeks ago, about UG3. And man, if the guy could stay healthy, you would, because of his ability to play on special teams and all like that, and the limited amount of snaps that we have seen him play on the defensive side of the ball weren't bad. You kind of hope he's a guy that can, stay on the field and secure a roster spot this year and stay there this time, because once again he provides that special teams aspect, and I don't think at this point, if indeed Robert Spillane winds up being a starter, you want him logging 4 teams on special teams, right? And you obviously aren't going to put Devin Bush out there. So, and we all know backup linebackers got to be able to play special teams. So, interesting to watch the bottom. We were really past the top 2 in Spillane and Bush. I mean, I think it's a foregone conclusion that Buddy Johnson's going to make this 53-man roster, barring something happening to him. So, is there 1 or 2 more spots left, or even 3 if you can, consider Killebrew there, and how is that going to play out?
Right. I know some fans have called for or asked about, could this team re-sign Avery Williamson, who remains a free agent? I'm personally not in favor of that idea. Will it happen? I doubt it. I'm not going to say no chance, but I really doubt it. Just, from the aspect of, A, he's not going to help you out on special teams, and Melvin Ingram's not going to help you out on special teams. So potentially some of your top backup linebackers, rotational type guys, referring to Ingram, aren't going to help you there. And so that's going to be an issue. And then B, it just, he's a good tackler. He plays around okay, but I mean, he didn't play that well last year. And, yes, there's a lot of youth and inexperience with Buddy Johnson, Marcus Allen, UG3, but the only way to get those guys experience is to play those guys and get those guys reps. And Buddy Johnson's the guy that I'm pretty high on. The team obviously is high on, and Marcus Allen, second year as an inside linebacker, and UG3's played well when healthy. That back, of course, is an issue, but he's talented. So let those guys play, get reps, and let them grow and ascend to become capable backups. Otherwise, they never will if you just keep bringing in bets every single time there's an issue in front of those guys.
Yeah, I think I put this out on Twitter the other day. I understand the kind of push or the thought, the group think that just bring back Avery Williamson. I don't see what you gain in that. Really, at least not initially. You should by now know who he is, and you're right. I mean, the tape last year was kind of meh, right? I mean, I can't remember really overall. Just thinking to myself, boy, what a great move. Glad he's the guy in there. After obviously Bush went down, and then obviously Spillane, about 5 weeks later than that. If you get in a situation and you let this play out, they need those young guys on that roster that we just highlighted to get as much work in training camp practices into preseason as possible. And then if you get about two or three more weeks into this thing and you don't see that kind of measure up to where you think Avery Williamson is at, then sure, by all means, go ahead and bring Avery Williamson back. I have a feeling he's going to be on the market a little bit longer right now, barring injuries happening and all like that around the league. But if you miss out on him, you miss out on him. I just personally, I wouldn't rush right out to sign Avery Williamson.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. It doesn't appear the team is, because they didn't sign him yesterday, and for whatever it's worth, and probably not a whole lot, number 51's been taken up twice on the roster already. The number Williamson wore last year with Trey Turner and Buddy Johnson, so that doesn't mean everything, but it is, I guess, somewhat notable.
Yeah, and how the roster ultimately plays out, I got a feeling one of those two guys aren't going to be, or they absolutely are not going to be sticking with both with 51 there. It probably comes down to how bad does Trey Turner want it, or if another number opens up, after the cut down. So whatever you do, if you're listening, don't rush out to buy Trey Turner or Buddy Johnson number 51 jerseys unless it just has the number 51 and maybe your last name on it, because a lot of things still subject to change with some as is the case every year at this time with roster numbers, especially with the younger players on the roster.
So I'm going to cancel my order right now. So we'll take a quick break here while I cancel the order for my Trey Turner and Buddy Johnson jersey.
Yeah, you're Presley. I keep wanting to call him Percy Harvin. I'm old. You're gonna have to cancel. Yeah, I would hold off on buying that number 6 Presley Harvin III jersey just yet.
Speaking of jersey numbers, Melvin Ingram rocking number 8, single-digit number.
Boy, how strange does that look?
Very strange.
Yeah, they already had him in the practice gold number 8 on Thursday there. When are they going to bring back number 0 or 00?
Johnny Zero Clement. That'd be cool. You're not allowed to, right? You still can't do that in the NFL today, right?
Not yet. But I don't.
I wonder why. What's the?
I think I went down on one of those rabbit holes not too terribly long ago, and I couldn't find what I was looking for. Only found another rabbit hole that I went down there. But certainly is weird to see that number 8 there. Of course, he wore number 9 during his college career at South Carolina, and I kind of wondered right after he was signed if he might go to the single digit avenue there. Obviously number 6 is already taken up by Presley Harvin there, right as of right now. So, wait, did he wear 6 or 9? No, he wore 6, didn't he?
I think it was 6. Yeah, that was the number that was in my head. Let me double check here.
I think I just said 9, but
he wore 6. Yeah.
Okay. So who knows what? I don't know. Maybe Presley Harvin's holding out for a little bit more cash there. I don't know. So, yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, you would think that maybe number 8 sticks with Melvin Ingram, but just to be on the safe side once again, I wouldn't rush right on out and buy that jersey just yet.
Mm-hmm. If Trey Turner sticks with 51, he'll be the first Steelers offensive lineman to wear 51 in a game since Chuck Lanza in 1989. So there's a bit of random history for you there.
Wow.
But looks like, by the way, here, just random NFL news. Saints wide receiver Michael Thomas expected to miss the start of the 2021 season after ankle surgery, 4 months of recovery.
Okay, wow.
So, that's rough fantasy football.
Rough start for the Saints there.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, again, flurry of roster moves. Melvin Ingram deal is official. A couple other moves.
Let me ask you real quick. You put I already put out my 53-man, my pre-training camp 53-man roster prediction, and yours followed after the Vince Williams news. Were you going to have Vince Williams on that 53?
Yes.
All right, full disclosure then.
Full disclosure. Had him on there and just took him off and put UG3 on there after Vince retired. So
let me tell you one of the key things that led me even closer to me going that route overall. Now, I obviously didn't think that he was going to show up at camp and retire, first day of camp, but one of the big red flags to me was when he did re-sign, no bonus money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and we're talking they could have still had him on what is it, 137,500 I think is the max signing bonus to still be a veteran benefit contract. That would not have that wouldn't set Omar Khan panicking in the streets, if you get what I'm saying about the salary cap status and all like that. I mean, if you give them that, then you end up cutting them. Okay, you're out 137,500 there. It just, to me, it really, really stuck out that they didn't. I mean, nothing. And some of these guys have gotten, obviously lower than 137,500, signing bonus money, but he got nothing, and that really, really stuck to me. That, man, they really unsure about, maybe how this might play out this off season with Vince Williams there. So, wish him well.
Yeah, my feeling, just to kind of wrap up the topic here, is that he had gotten the sense from spring work that Robert Spillane was going to be the starter, so either Williams was going to be a backup or not make the team at all. So why kind of put yourself through a training camp, especially because Vince would play training camp 100%, fully all out like he always does. And so why do that for either getting cut or backup type situation or whatever the case is for not a lot of money? So probably the right decision for him.
Yeah, I think it's the right decision.
All right, Dave. But the addition of Melvin Ingram, the Vince Williams retirements, it's led to a lot of roster moves here the last couple of days. So let's catch up on all what has happened. The Steelers have also signed, in addition to Melvin Ingram, offensive tackle Chaz Green, a veteran tackle, has been in the league for 4 or 5 years now, has been a spot starter for most of his career with the Cowboys and with the Colts last season. Actually had a start versus Pittsburgh last year, and I think, to use your phrase, Dave, TJ Watt, quote, wore him like a hat, which is, I think, a very apt description of what happened in that game. So Green certainly no guarantee he'll make the roster. He's probably outside looking in right now.
Yeah, when T.J. Watt showed up for training camp, they had no choice but to sign Chaz Green because of roster limits and all, because he was still wearing him as a hat. You go back and I pulled a couple of clips and from that game. I mean, and look, T.J. Watt eats up a lot of people, right? At that tackle spot. But and really, people might not remember, but that old wrap around the old neck, T.J. Watt was obviously held a ton last season. This was, even though some will say, well, the rule book says you dip like that, it really technically wasn't holding. But I mean, you still frame that. It certainly does look like Chaz Green had him right around the neck, and that holding should have been called on that play. It wasn't there. You go back and this is the same Chaz Green that I think against, who was it, Claiborne in the Falcons back in, I don't know, 13, 14, right? One of those.
Was more recent than that.
Was it?
Yeah, because Green 16, came in the league.
Maybe it's 16.
16, 17, yeah, one of those years.
I think Claiborne got him for something like 4 or 5 sacks in that game, just ate him alive, and I think he was at left tackle. He does have experience playing both tackle spots, and was it right or left guard that I wrote up? He's got some snaps at one of the guard positions there. To me, I mean, yeah, I mean, outside looking in, if he makes this 53-man roster, I think something's gone wrong somewhere there, quite personally, unless maybe they want to take a look at him kicked inside. I have not looked at any of his guard tape or anything whatsoever. Nowadays you say, well, I wouldn't put that guy at left tackle or right tackle. It don't matter these days because they'll move pass rushers around to either side. If you got a weak tackle, that weak tackle will get exposed, especially in pass rush there. The signing caught me off guard. I didn't see it coming, especially, nothing, something to his degree. But he is position flexible. At least he's, this isn't his first training camp. He should be able to pick things up fairly quickly. Got what is he, a former fourth round draft pick out of Florida. So he's got a little bit of pedigree to him. But is he an upgrade over, let's say, a Joe Haig or Rashad Coward, and what is Coward? Is Coward a tackle or guard? Those are things that you're going to uncover for us once you get to training camp next week there. So, a depth move right now. Heck, I even wonder if Chaz Green will end up being a legitimate candidate for the practice squad. That's how concerned I am after going back through some of his tape.
Yeah, actually a former third-round pick, looking at his bio here, the Cowboys out of Florida. So, yeah, some pedigree there, some versatility. That'll help plug in the holes during training camp. But I think his odds of making the team are pretty slim. Not impossible, I guess, just with so much, just newness and new faces as backups. It's not like anyone kind of has, like, their backup spot entrenched in this team besides maybe B.J. Finney if he doesn't win the starting center job. But even then, that's probably no guarantee. Green, of course, playing a different position, but we'll see. We'll get eyes on him, next week and report back where he's playing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we don't have the contract information or the official contract information from the NFLPA on several of these guys, but I'm going to bet you a cold drink that Chaz Green signed a veteran benefit contract for 1 year for the obviously for the minimum with no guaranteed money included in that.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right on that. He'll wear number 74, by the way, and that replaced the old number 74, Jerron Jones, who was released as part of these moves. Jones, it's a weird situation in terms of what's happening. He had domestic violence charges, I think, dropped and then recharged again, and I'm not really sure. It's been dating back to last year. This has been going on, but the Steelers finally cutting ties with Jerron Jones, and Chaz Green will replace him.
All right, and I think as part of this merry-go-round finishing up the housekeeping there, Vince Williams was officially placed on the reserve retired list by the Steelers on Thursday. And did you talk about Bundage being back?
Yeah, Bundage was initially released as part of the Melvin Ingram signing, and then once Vince retired, that opened up a roster spot on the 90, of course, and so Bundage was re-signed yesterday.
Now they moved him around a lot in that Miami defense, Bundage, but I still mainly consider him an edge.
He's a tweener. Yeah, he played some off-ball in Oklahoma State and played some edge as well.
Oklahoma State.
Right.
I've been sick this morning, folks. So
okay, it's all good. Yeah, I don't know where they're going to play him. I mean, my guess is edge as well. Because just a little bit less depth there, but he's a pretty lean, lanky guy, at least in college, and so maybe they try him at both spots. I'm not quite sure.
Never good to be kind of that first guy out, you know,
right?
Off the 90 there. So, he's definitely going to have to, in whatever, as long as he sticks remaining forward. I mean, he better buy Danny Smith some couple buckets of bubble gum there and get real chummy with him if he's going to stick past the final roster cut down date and make it to the practice squad or anything along those lines.
Yeah, welcome to the NFL, Rook. You get cut, you get brought back. That is going to be life of those guys, just on and off the roster all the time. All right, Dave, let's talk about day one of training camp. Of course, it was closed practice. It won't be open to the public and for us to be there until next Wednesday. That is, the 27th, 28th. I should probably know what that date is. But Mike Tomlin did give some information on what happened at day one of training camp, including the injury reports that Kevin Dotson did not practice due to some minor injury, something he tweaked apparently before the start of training camp. He said Dotson will need a couple days, but he'll be fine, nothing serious. And TJ Watt reportedly went through individual drills, but not team drills. He was asked about that after practice and said, that's really nothing to worry about. So that is your injury report.
Yeah, no PUP, guys. Right. You and Dr. Mel were correct. I kind of wondered if, just because of the time frame, if there was any chance that, Bush specifically, because I think we're right at is it 10 months?
We did this a couple podcasts ago.
I just wrote this.
Week 6 of last year.
Yeah, I just wrote this up a few days ago as well too. There, but it's either 9 or 10 months. He's right at removed from surgery and all like that. So I just kind of wondered if maybe they would start him on active PUP just to kind of ease him in. They obviously didn't deem that necessary. Now it does kind of sound like they would with both these guys, Bush and Zach Banner, that they're gonna take it slow with them, training wheels on them through the start of training camp there, and really kind of almost treat them as if they were on active PUP, only just allowed to run around and take part in a couple of those team drills here and there. So it's obviously positive news that they don't have to start on active PUP, but in the same breath, they're probably going to move those two guys along pretty dang slow here over the next couple of weeks. I doubt we'll see either one of those guys in the first preseason game, and well, I guess we'll have to see how it goes from there. And I think you picked this up on the Steelers photos on the official website yesterday. Banner wasn't in there at right tackle with the first team on one shot. I think you said Joe Hague was, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Now, I don't know if that's just because Banner isn't in team at all or they're rotating. I'm not trying to sound any alarms here, but it is just worth noting that I saw in at least one clip, it appeared Joe Hague getting reps as the first team right tackle yesterday.
Which is not surprising, right? I mean, right. If they're easing in Banner into this thing, then that would obviously be the case with him. Let's see. Watt, I think was asked about not being in team drills, just, basically said with camp a little bit early, he just, making sure to properly acclimate himself and those kind of things. Remember, this is a TJ Watt. I think at the start of a training camp or two previously, he's had that hamstring, has had a hamstring issue. So probably would be wise. I think they know what they have in TJ. I'm gonna go out on. I'll bet you another cold drink here, Alex. I'm willing to bet they know what they have in TJ Watt at this point here. So I mean, if that guy, needs a little bit of time to acclimate his body properly, then take as much time as you need, TJ, when it comes to that aspect. And it sounds like maybe Tuitt is another one that's kind of being eased along here at the start, and that's probably not surprising either because Tuitt missed a lot of the offseason program, right? Especially with the tragic death of his brother there. So he's another one that I'm going to go out on a limb on and say that the Steelers aren't overly concerned about, and we'll probably hear reports about him kind of just being eased along in this process at the start as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, veteran guys, and there's a lot of youthful backups behind them that need the reps, or a Melvin Ingram, a veteran in that case, that can probably use those reps. So those guys are obviously fine, and they'll be ready for the start of the season. Don't know who replaced Dotson as first-team left guard. We know Kendrick Green was at center, so could that have been B.J. Finney at left guard? That's possible. Could it have been Rashad Coward? It kind of sounded like it was Coward, but we can't. It's so hard. It feels so weird because we're just – usually we know all this after day one, but not being there yet, it makes it hard to try to patch this stuff together. My sense of it was Coward, but I don't know that to be a fact.
Yeah, trying to find out if the burner's on the stove with the lights out.
Not entirely sure what that means. That's a little southern sounding thing.
You're kind of feeling around a little bit there, and
okay.
You find out if it's hot or not. But you'll clear all that up for us here next week.
Yeah, well, hopefully Dotson is back by then. I mean, I would kind of hope so. But, my guess is that.
You talk about things being – that always reminds me of my granddad. And, I did grow up in the South and all, and a lot of those old houses that were built in, 30s, 40s, 50s and all like that had those old fuse boxes in them, with the long fuses, not the kind that you screwed in, those long fuses there. And, my granddad would always check circuits. He'd go out there and he'd wet his finger and he'd throw it down the two sides of those connections there, and if it popped, he'd say, "Davy." They always called me Davy because I had another cousin that was Dave, and he was around the house quite a bit. He says, "Davy, that's hot." So anyway, a little bit of story back.
For our audio-only listeners, this segment was filmed in black and white. Yeah. I don't know if you guys knew that or not. All right, that's some
moving
cartoon
pictures. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, back to Steelers training camp. Again, don't have a lot of news and notes. They were just in shorts and shells. It is day one. You've been to the early days of training camp before. It's not the most exciting stuff in terms of competitive, sessions or evaluation and things like that. There's no tackling, so that'll all come when the pads come on. But we'll talk about Mike Tomlin because he definitely had some interesting notes, not only about what happened on day one of training camp, but what will happen for game one, the Hall of Fame game against the Dallas Cowboys. He already announced that Kendrick Green will start at center and Antoine Brooks Jr. will start as the slot corner in nickel. Those guys appear to get to start in practice yesterday. So not being shy about getting those guys reps and putting them on a big stage.
And Mike Tomlin always, as usual, warned us to not read too much into that, but we're going to
blow right past that.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a yield sign, I think. But, I don't know how you can't make something out of it, to be quite honest with you, especially with Green, where he was drafted and because of the bar that he has to clear is relatively low. I think when it comes to the center position, to me, that's the kind of, the team is probably hoping for. I think 99% of the fan base is probably hoping for is that Kendrick Green winds up being your week one center. And obviously, or according to Ben Roethlisberger, took first team reps and did the line calls and no footballs on the ground yesterday. So it sounds like it was a successful day in that area alone there. And obviously Mike Tomlin just don't want to come out and give those kids big heads like, these are going to be our starters. But I think it is fairly significant that they want to get him, both those kids out there right away, Kendrick Green and Antoine Brooks Jr., who's now in his second year. Mike Tomlin always talks this time of year. Really, there wasn't that many. I don't think he was asked specifically about second-year players and stepping up. That might be the first time that hadn't happened in about 4 or 5 training camps, that line of questioning there. But we heard a little bit during the off-season practices that maybe Antoine Brooks was a guy that could be a legitimate candidate to take over for Mike Hilton. It seems like things are definitely trending in that way. I mean, at this point, until we hear or see more, there's probably no reason to think that Antoine Brooks isn't the leader in the clubhouse right now when it comes to that spot there. And he picked off Ben Roethlisberger during practice, apparently on Thursday there. Sort of a slingshot move, I think, as Ben Roethlisberger described it. A nice move. I think kind of impressed Ben there on that and made the interception. And yeah, it's a negative on Ben Roethlisberger, but as Ben did say, going to need those kind of plays out of the defense this year. So big news of, what was he? Sixth round out of Maryland last year. Kind of one of those tweener defensive backs, if you will. Obviously best suited to play closer to the line of scrimmage than say a traditional tied to the post safety type thing there. So that's good news. You got a second-year player making a move, and especially at a position that's really, really critical coming off of the offseason loss of one Mike Hilton.
Yeah, and that was, I think, a comment that I believe Ben had made about, talking about kind of making Hilton-like plays. And so it sounds like they really want to try Brooks there first and see if he can handle the job because of that size and the physicality and run defense that he can hopefully give that obviously Mike Hilton was able to. Now, Hilton and Brooks are different body types and styles. Brooks looks more like a strong safety. Hilton's kind of more of a classic slot-looking corner. But just in terms of the fit of this defense, the run fits, the blitzes, sting, or being able to go into sub-package occasionally against two tight end sets to cover some of these athletic tight ends like they could with Mike Hilton at times in his career. It seems like those are the things that Antoine Brooks could potentially offer this team when they want to explore it. So that'll definitely be worth watching. And then for center, with Kendrick Green, I'm excited to see it. I want to get this guy to be thrown into the deep end of the pool and sink or swim and see what you have in this guy and just get him reps, get him experience because he definitely needs that, and this line as a whole needs it. So I still have some reservations about Green, about, can he be consistent and stay on his feet and stuff like that. The only way to find this stuff out and fix those things is to play the guy. So I'm all for it.
Kind of reading in between the lines of the really vague reports that the media came out of yesterday's practice and all like that, it sounds like the touchdown pass that Ben threw to Deontay Johnson was some sort of quick pass. I haven't quite figured out maybe if that was a quick screen or one of those quick slants hopefully it's one of those quick slants so Deontay can work on catching those 5 yards within the line of scrimmage there. But, kind of read in between the lines, Kendrick Green got out there in space and made a block on that play, or at least impeded somebody. I don't know how hardcore they're going blocking right now with no pads on at all. But so that's a little bit of positive there. Sometimes you hear these early training camp press conferences and you watch them again, and then you get the transcript, and then when you start really digging into them, you might get a little Easter egg or two along the way there. I think you kind of hinted at it right there. What Ben said yesterday when talking about Antoine Brooks Jr. Direct quote here: "He's filling Mike Hilton's shoes. He's been a rock on that defense for a while." I don't know how long a while. Oh, that's obviously Hilton. He's been a rock on that defense for a while. And so for him to make that play, I was happy for him. As mad as I was to throw an interception, it was a great play. I think the key quote there is he's filling Mike Hilton's shoes. Right. So maybe, obviously I enjoy I've made a blogging career out of reading way too much into things, into quotes and over the years there, but I don't know. We'll see if we can circle this one and circle back to it later and say, well, Ben told us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the question with Brooks is, just can he cover? Can he handle some of those quicker, shiftier slot receivers? Because he isn't, the best. He was more of a safety. He's not a guy that's really played. He's played some slot, obviously. The safeties will tend to do that, but he's not someone that has that quickness. Can he, cover man to man, the whole route tree? Because you have to out of the slot. And do you have some of that short area quickness? That'll be the challenge for Brooks. I think he can do fine as a fitting the run and blitzing and just being that kind of big nickel type of guy, which is kind of how he was used briefly last season. But to me, the question will be just how well does he cover?
Yeah, and look, we kind of a quad, nickel dime backer, right? Linebacker-ish. Not afraid. Once again, I think one of the highlights or one of the main pluses with him coming out of Maryland is he plays in the box. He's not afraid to come up and attack the run. And boy, was Mike Hilton great at that. And there are going to obviously be situations where you need that kind of body player on the field, and not just talking about just in the slot predominantly, right? You talk about some of these nickel type or dime type situations there. You need to be very versatile where if you do have a guy like him on the field, due to what happens across from you got to be able to play inside that box. And if an opposing offense tries to collapse the formation down and maybe they try to go a little bit heavier and run the football against you.
It would still take a lot of steps to get there, but could Cam Sutton still end up as kind of the dime defender this year, where in dime, Brooks is in the slot and Pierre comes in as the right corner, and Sutton kind of becomes that more rover type of guy who can rotate and spin with Minka occasionally. Is that possible this year?
Right out of shoot, I was trending more to, and this is just based off of James Pierre having a great off season as far as we know. I was trending toward thinking that the higher probability would have been for Sutton to be the nickel and for Pierre to be the one that comes off the bench and plays outside opposite Joe Hayden. I'm not married to that look, we're early in this process. You're gonna learn a lot for us in the next 2 weeks here, but I would say I'm moving back the other direction off of thinking that as being a high or the highest probability so far. Now, are they just mainly looking at him because, well, we know what Sutton can give us in the slot as a nickel type defender there, who's going to be his backup,
Right.
And maybe that's why a little bit of run early in training camp this year.
But what about in dime? Nickel, we know, could be Pierre Brooks, but what about just in dime packages? How does that look?
Man, that's a good question there too.
Because what I'm saying is, could Sutton become the role he had last year in dime as that kind of rover 60B where Pierre's the right corner, Brooks is in the slot, how Sutton can be the chess piece that he is?
I don't think you can discount it by no stretch of imagination. We're going to do a lot of learning here, I think, in the next several weeks here when it comes in. Look, this has been one of the questions, that we've had and fans have had since really the moment they cut Steven Nelson, right? And lost Mike Hilton to free agency. I think most people at least I expected Mike Hilton to be gone. Didn't expect Steven Nelson to be gone. But since both of those moves have happened, which has really been quite a while ago now, that's been sort of one of the key questions we've had throughout the summer here. And I don't know. I don't know which way it's going to play out. Quite honestly, with you. Obviously, I think James Pierre is going to make this 53-man roster. I don't see how he doesn't. Justin Lane's kind of a huge question mark there. I think Brooks is answering questions now. I'm feeling a lot more secure that he's going to make the 53-man roster this year. As far as sub packages go. I think we got a lot to learn there. So I don't know how to properly answer. I don't know is the best question I think I can get, or best answer I can give to that question.
Yeah, and that's fair. No one knows. This scenario requires obviously everyone to stay healthy and for Brooks to play well and for Pierre to play well and to prove themselves. And that's going to take and ask a lot right now. And so these things will all get answered over the next month. Nothing set in stone by any means right now, even for just the slot corner. But I think he's
got to know that defense, though, man. He's got to know it, And I think he was one of those ones that was kind of I mean, I know Sutton was. I remember that vividly. Them talking about Sutton and going down to Tennessee, and how him telling Colbert and Tomlin, knowing all the jobs of every man on that defense on a given play. You hope. It seems like there was a little bit of talk about Brooks last year after he was drafted and all, but didn't play. But what did he play? 20-something snaps, I think. Brooks last year.
Yeah, it was mostly against the Bengals.
In the defense there, so and spent the start of the season on the practice squad, and I think he was. I think he was inactive for 2 games, and maybe didn't dress for a couple others that he was active for. So, maybe they're just really putting his hand, really testing him at the start of camp to know exactly what they have in him. And maybe you're right, maybe Cam is going to still be the guy to go inside there. They just may be more concerned and maybe who the backup is, but. Mm-hmm. Regardless, it's a positive what Tomlin said on Thursday about Antoine Brooks Jr. and now we got something to look forward to with him starting in the Hall of Fame game along with Kendrick Green.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else from Tomlin that he talked about that's notable, worth passing along, Dave?
I mean, I don't think he told us too much that we didn't know. He may have gave away a little bit more about the whole TJ Watt thing that was been a foregone conclusion anyway. About we'll have what was the quote specifically when he said about Watt and his contract overall. He says, "I'm sure the process will run its course and we'll have something to report." So.
No. All right.
Maybe a little another nugget there. What'd you think about his comments about the offensive line?
Yeah, I mean, he's trying. Well, he's like setting a high bar, but also not setting a high bar at the same time. Talking about obviously, like we have high expectations for this group. We're not gonna. I forget the phrase that he used, but also was like, we were dead last in rushing last year, so we have a low bar to overcome. How bad we were last year. So I don't really know how to interpret that, but obviously, I mean, he's got the whole standard is the standard, and he knows this unit is to me the X factor, not only the Steelers offense, but the entire Steelers team. And as they go, so will the rest of this team, and the success. Failure, pass, fail on this group or on this team comes down to that group that's starting 5, and so they have to figure this stuff out.
He says we don't have the bar set really high. We were last in the league in rushing, so we got nowhere to go but up from certain aspects of that. It's not something that we fear. No.
Yeah, so very very much a Tomlinism. He's in regular season form. Right there. I think Matt Canada, I don't know where it came from, but also talked about the other day about how
should they real quick, should they be ranked 30? I think PFF, one of those guys, one of the top 2 guys, there's released offensive line rankings the other day there. Steelers ranked 31st overall ahead of I think only the New York Giants there.
Yeah,
is that fair?
I think it is just, based on the newness of this group and the unprovenness of this group. Can they, finish the season better than where they're at right now in those types of rankings? Yeah, I think that's possible. But I mean, the question would be, what groups are you going to put ahead of this group that is so new and kind of just put together? And so I think they have to prove themselves to climb up those all important rankings.
Part of me wants to say that's just maybe a 4 or 5 spots low just for the sheer fact that, Kevin Dotson and really Trey Turner's resume alone, or past resume. Now, obviously, he was injured with the groin and all like that. Part of me just wants to give him give that O-line extra credit just for that. 31st, man, that's down there, obviously. But as we said, and I know a lot of people haven't liked us talking. So I guess with the more negative connotations to this offensive line, but I think as we said throughout the process here, and really specifically most recently, if you're analyzing this team objectively, you can't help but talk about the Steelers 2021 lines in a more negative connotation than you can positive connotation until we really see something that gives us a reason to have a more positive feeling.
Sure. I mean, it's at the most charitable, you have to say it's a big question mark. And it's not that they can't play well or can't get better, and hopefully they'll improve and grow individually and collectively throughout the season. But I mean, it's a total, upheaval and facelift of this line. And so to say we know what we're going to expect from this group, you just be lying to yourself, whether that's positive or negative.
Now, we're not saying that they can't, obviously be better than, and, what's the other thing that we kind of quantified this thing is, and Tomlin kind of backed us up, we got a low bar to clear here, folks, as far as, especially in the run blocking department there. Should the Steelers 2021 offensive line be a better, at least run blocking offensive line than 2020? Well, yes. If somebody has got some explaining to do if it's not, because of all the focus that's been put on the offensive line and running game and all that this offseason here. But for anybody to come out and say, oh man, the offensive line is going to be so much better in 2021, I don't see how you're basing what people are basing that on outside of pure fanboy, fan optimism,
Mm-hmm. And I think most fans understand and realize this is a pretty big question mark and don't have the bar set too high. And I think even Matt Canada had said, and I forget where he said it, but there's going to be growing pains with this line. So just how quickly can they come together and how quickly can they get past some of those growing pains? That first month of the season could be pretty rough. So you're really hoping that the other guys step up when this defense steps up that first month as this O-line kind of tries to come together.
I think with if indeed Green's the rookie center there, and the whole continuity thing and the communication, there might be a couple wincing type moments in some of these early games, because of that. If can they? How quickly can they gel? That's going to be one of the key things to look for moving forward in this thing.
Yeah, and that's why they need reps right now. That's why Green needs reps on day one. And at least you have 4 preseason games, which is nice. Everyone else besides Dallas has 3, and so you got to get those guys as many opportunities as possible. Of course, especially the new and the young guys.
Right.
So I think that was probably it for Tom. He did mention that basically he's not worried about any sort of the COVID restrictions, and the memo released by the league yesterday that definitely caused a pretty big headline. The Steelers seem to be in a really good place from a vaccination status, well over 85% seems to be the report. So at least 77 players at their 90-man roster. Of course, all coaches have to be vaccinated basically as well. So Tomlin said it's basically a non-issue, and they quote check that box.
Yeah, and boy, the NFL's not playing, are they?
Yeah, I wrote in the article, I wrote up about that. They said, they're all out of carrots and they're using sticks now to try to get as many players vaccinated as possible. Still not a requirement, good. But basically it's not a requirement, but it is a requirement at the same time. Where basically they're impressing upon teams to impress upon the players to get their shots. And there's been some blowback and criticism for that, but that's been the NFL's approach.
Yeah, basically telling players you don't have to get vaccinated, but you better get vaccinated.
Yeah, because if you don't, it's going to be a kind of miserable season for yourself, and there's a lot of risk there if your team can't play because of some sort of outbreak.
And like it or not, even though people probably want to say, "Oh, that wouldn't happen," there would be lawsuits and all like that. If it, I forget who it was, put it out on, I think it was Andrew Brand or something like that. If it comes down between 2 players that are kind of evenly matched and one is vaccinated and one's not, what should we expect to happen?
Right. Yeah. Obviously, the league has told. I think it was McDermott or whoever with the Bills. You can't outright say you're releasing a player because he's not been vaccinated. But I mean, let's not kid ourselves. So that's going to be a factor in some of these decisions. Potentially, you're just not going to say the quiet part out loud.
Yeah, good job on Matthew Marksy writing all that up yesterday on SteelersDepot.com. If you want to read the memo and all like that, he's got that all laid out there for you. But Mike Tomlin doesn't seem overly concerned. I think going into this week, the Steelers were like one of, 3 or 4 teams that the highest vaccination rate in the NFL there. So I don't know if they're over, what they are percentage wise. Didn't you try to track down, or didn't you think that you had an idea how many were?
No, I just know they said 85%, which
Okay.
gives you at least 77 of a 90-man roster just on that's 85%.
Oh,
So
you were just doing math.
the math, yeah, I wasn't checking cards or anything like that. But the Steelers, hopefully, fingers crossed, will be in a good place COVID wise and won't have any sort of issues this year, which is obviously good news. All right, Dave, let's switch to what Ben had to say with the media. Talked about his arm feeling fresher. So I don't know about Slim Ben, but Fresh Ben apparently seems to be the theme of the season. Said this offseason was different in a good way because he didn't have to throw 1,000 footballs this offseason to rehab and retrain his arm and stuff like that. So he feels a lot fresher coming into this year.
And shout out to his daughter too, helping him make flashcards and doing home quizzes and learn getting some of this new terminology down. Kind of funny, you get kind of as all the press conferences went on, you got Ben says, yeah, it's pretty different here, Mike Tomlin saying it's not really all that, one saying it's not rocket science, the other one saying, well, it's I keep looking at my wristband there, so it's probably the truth is probably somewhere in the middle there, but I think he made it a point to say that I wasn't throwing as many footballs as I was last offseason there. That's the main difference right now. So, and it is a big difference, some might want to say he had arm fatigue later in the season. And if indeed that was the case, then it's probably understandable because the rehab process and all that he had to go through last year, and then carry that on over into training camp and that sort of stuff there. So, to me, Alex, I watched that thing 3 times yesterday. Ben looks like Ben to me. I don't know what side of the coin, people want to get on, but Ben looks just like Ben to me the last, 2, 3, 4 seasons there. He looks fine. Maybe this is, I don't know if he saw his shadow or not. So maybe if he didn't, then maybe we have a couple more weeks of Ben is fat season left. I don't know.
And he was asked about that and kind of downplayed, as a matter of fact, downplay those reports saying, quote, there were reports coming out of my camp. My camp is my wife, my agent, and my trainer, and I know that none of them talked to that person, so I'm not really sure where that information came from. Some things get exaggerated a little bit from golf analysts. So did talk about, working on diet, and yeah, he looks fine, but it looks the same as last year. Like if this would have ever been a story at all, I would have looked at Ben this year and went, yeah, he looks fine, and just moved on from it. So non-story to me.
Yeah, I mean, best shape of his life, all the other stuff there. I mean, I'll just end it with saying he looks like Ben to me, man. So
yeah, the guy, and I'm gonna be gossiping here, but the guy that had that report, saw the photo of Ben on day one and went, this guy's lost like 30 pounds. I'm going, I don't think he's lost 30 pounds. Like he looks fine, but he's just Ben. It's fine.
Right.
So that's that. Anything else there from Ben? Talked about the offensive line and the changes there. Talked about how tough it was to not have DeCastro and Villanueva and, of course, Marquise Pouncey. But, is optimistic about the group he has. And, what else, I guess, is Ben supposed to say about this current group?
He's never actually tried avocado ice cream, by the way. He got that point across yesterday. I thought it was funny. He says there's things, he asked about if he's following all these things that the national media saying and his motivation. He says there are things being said nationally about me, and the reply was, well, a little bit here and there. He says, oh, okay, what's new? And that's a proper response to have there. I don't know why they felt the need to cut out the avocado ice cream response out of the video.
Did they?
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't even realize that.
Is that trying to be proactive? Like that quote's going to be. I know the answer to my own question here. I just have to ask that though. Is them cutting that out of that video in hopes that it doesn't circulate and then it becomes a whole Ben downplaying. Ben doesn't believe in Tom Brady's diet. You know what I'm saying here? The typical take something out of context and not that the media does that, and make a huge story out of it.
I mean, if you make a big story out of not having avocado ice cream, then
But they will. They would.
I guess. I mean,
is that why they left it out? I guess is my question.
I didn't realize that, and just wouldn't even give it a second thought. Very, very strange, though.
Yeah.
But Ben also talked about, and this is a little subject to interpretation, but about Matt Canada's offense. Says, quote, if you talk about the percentage of new run game formations, I mean everything. It's a high percentage of new. It's a challenge, but that seems to indicate a little bit about maybe that run emphasis and focus Matt Canada and maybe Art Rooney as well has brought to this offense for this year.
I don't think I didn't grab my chest or anything in shock. Look, they got to run football better. More successfully, plain and simple. The emphasis probably, as we've kind of seen since the Art Rooney signal went up. The emphasis is to kind of take some pressure off of Ben this year by running the football better. It all starts there. If the offensive line plays well, if they're able to run the football successfully, it'll have carryover effect or it should have carryover effect to the passing game to some degree. To me, where the heavy analysis gets in when talking about Roethlisberger and his play in 2021, all once again stems from being like the third thing on the list. Is the running game working? And are you having success there? If the answer to that question is yes, and then you're having issues pushing the football down the field and all those kind of things, then that's where you start. That's where some of the criticism of Ben would likely start playing in a lot more heavier there.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, Canada's had run-heavy offenses in college and all of his stops. Not that I'm expecting the Steelers to replicate that 1-to-1, but I think obviously you'll see an increase in run rate just because it'll be more successful and because of that heavier emphasis Matt Canada is going to bring.
Right.
All right. Anything else?
You weren't shocked. You weren't shocked by any of that, though, right?
No, I wasn't necessarily shocked, but it just is interesting to hear Ben talk about this new offense, just to try to get some little bits of information on kind of what to expect before we actually get eyes on it.
All right.
And then by week 2, when they're down 14-0, all this goes out the window because Ben throwing the ball 50 times a game, so who cares? TJ Watt, what did TJ Watt have to say? I asked about his contract. He's been very quiet and just very, just not wanting to talk about it, which is totally understandable, and then basically reiterated as much yesterday, saying he loves Pittsburgh, wants to be here, but really just said, quote, we'll have to wait and see on a potential mega contract.
And look, it's been the same approach with him. He doesn't like answering questions about his contract situation, and I don't blame him. Just say, he handled it perfectly, really. We'll see how things go, and I'm just here to get better, and cliches, and I have nothing more to say about it. They tried 2 or 3 different times to get him to talk about it, and he declined, and really that's been the case since going back a couple weeks ago when he met the media during it was either mandatory minicamp or OTAs, want to forget. But look, is there anybody out there really listening to this show right now that believes that a deal's not going to get done with TJ Watt in the next 51 days, I believe?
Yeah, I'm sure it's a very small percentage of people. I think the expectation, as you mentioned earlier, Tomlin kind of seeming to hint at it as well. When Art Rooney says get it done, it's going to happen. So the Steelers are going to get it done.
I mean, you're talking about, look at the history of this team since the 5th round options have been put in place too, for the most part. Yeah, there have been instances. Bud Dupree had his 5th year option picked up, but ultimately didn't get anything beyond that. There are obviously exceptions to the rule. Barring something just really unfathomable happening circumstance-wise in the next 51 days, I will be floored if T.J. Watt does not have a new deal in place in the next 51 days. Plain and simple.
And if that deal comes, it should be the highest paid defensive player in football.
Absolutely should be.
T.J. Watt didn't really have a whole lot else to say because he was just asked about Melvin Ingram, about the contract situation. Just always seems to be focusing on doing the little things and trying to find small ways to improve, and that's always seems to have been his mindset and the way he's approached things. I think that's the reason why he's such a talented player and such a successful player is because he has that great physical talent with a great football IQ and great work ethic. And when you combine all of those things, you get a guy like T.J. Watt.
Absolutely. I mean, just quintessential. I mean, he's a Watt, right? I mean,
yeah, there you go.
Plain and simple. I mean, you draw him up. This is the way you want to draw him up. You want to talk about guys that I mean, he looks like he's put together pretty good right now.
Mm-hmm. He's also probably the only veteran to miss Latrobe, because I can't imagine there are too many others that want to be in those dorm rooms. But he said, quote, "I miss Latrobe. I miss the people, the atmosphere. I know that it's unfortunate for the people of Latrobe. We wish we could be there." And then talked about they're just going to do their best at Heinz Field in Pittsburgh right now. So a guy who seems to be just very kind of empathetic and realizes that a lot of people are missing this team not being at St. Vincent College, myself included, this offseason.
Yeah, he answered all the questions correctly too about how do you see it playing out rotationally with Ingram and Alex Highsmith and all those things there too. At least I'm not the coach,
Mm-hmm.
Didn't tip it. But he does understand too in the same breath that he cannot play 100% of the snaps during the season. That and I thought it was interesting him talking about it's all feel for him. If he feels he needs to get off the field, he gets off the field. If he thinks he needs to stay in there, he stays in there. So, just the kind of stuff that you would expect. If things go the way they, the way you kind of hope they go, though, if Melvin Ingram just can stay healthy and just kind of, even be the pressure guy that he was when he was on the field last year, that's going to make quite a bit of difference as opposed to the way this team looked like heading into last weekend, right? I mean, it's something we've talked about all offseason long since Dupree left via free agency. They've got to address what's behind Watt and Alex Highsmith there. You can, if Ingram stays healthy, I don't think it's unfathomable to think of him getting some games where you're getting up around, 20, 25, maybe even slightly more snaps than that. They've got to do a good job of kind of rotating these guys out here. And Ingram should, once again, if Father Time hasn't completely hawked him down, he should be fine.
Yeah, like I said, that was such an important signing for depth, for rotational purposes, to keep guys fresh, not only in game but throughout the course of a season. And so at the least, that's what Ingram's gonna give. And I think Watt seemed excited about that prospect.
Yeah, he talked about how he's watched them, throughout his career with the Chargers. Obviously, brother Derek Watt played with the Chargers, and T.J. watching those games, and had built up a kind of a sort of a relationship with him at the Pro Bowl a couple of years ago as well too. So these two aren't strangers, and Watt says, I can even learn some things from him, as well too. And that's the moment that you think you know it all. Is trouble, and I think T.J. Watt obviously doesn't think he knows it all. He talks about it, and one of the things I talked about Ingram the other day is that spin move, and T.J. Watt made sure to point that out too, saying he's got a heck of a spin move there. So obviously, look, when you're dealing with a player in Melvin Ingram on the wrong side of 30. Coming off the situation with the knee. By the way, shout out to Dr. Mel as well too. Where else can you get information like that, Alex?
Right.
Two different posts on Melvin Ingram and his health and the knee injury that he suffered last year as well too. There, so I didn't get the impression that she's overly concerned about it there, but. Father Time works in mysterious ways, obviously there. So, boy, you look at some too. I'm gonna go here. I go down the rabbit hole here. Take your watch off. You look at Jadeveon Clowney signed with the Browns for 1 year, $8 million, right? Essentially, well, I think they used some voidable years in there with him. Melvin Ingram, 1 year, $4 million. I mean, neither one of them last year put up stats, right?
Right.
Take off your all that Steelers paraphernalia that I'm sure you have now, and take the terrible towel that you have wrapped around your neck off, Alex. Which is the better ad?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think Clowney's a good scheme fit for the Browns. I think Ingram's a good scheme fit for the Steelers. Clowney's, of course, a couple years younger as well, so there's a factor in that. But I just look at it this way. I'm just happy with the addition of Ingram, and for that price point, while it was a little bit more than what I thought, I think it's reasonable and it's workable, and I think it was such a necessary signing for this defense. So I'm very happy with Ingram for $4 million.
Well, I'm going to take a stance here. I'm going to be on one side of the fence. I'm going to tell you, I think Ingram's the better ad. I mean, Clowney's always been that guy. Well, wait until next year. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He's going to put it all together next year, right? How many sacks does Clowney have? Not this sacks are the end-all, do-all number here.
In his career or last year? He didn't have any last year in 8 games. I'll pull it up here. 32 in, 7 years.
How many games?
83, 74 starts.
All right. And Ingram has what? He has 50.
I want to say 50, but maybe I'm wrong on that.
He has
49.
49 in how many games? 113 total games.
Yeah, 96 career starts.
So, I mean, look, both of them obviously didn't have the seasons that they would like to have had in 2020 there. But, I mean, obviously, to me, I think all the way around, I think Ingram checks all the boxes that makes him the better signing than Clowney. There's a lot of pressure on that Browns defense this year, man. There's a lot of pressure on the Browns as a whole, isn't there? I mean, I think they're working on a 4-peat as far as off-season championships go now. But man, the pressure's on them big time this year, right? I mean, and especially I think on the defensive side of football. I mean, this is the same defense, and I understand it was in Bobo time late in that wild card game and all like that and all, but old man Ben still ate him up pretty good with some yardage, right? Even in some predictable pass type situations. Not that any barometer can be directly read with that alone. They've obviously made changes on the defensive side of football, but long story short, and I've said there's a lot of pressure on the Browns this year, and I'm just not buying any team in the AFC running away with 11 or 12 wins right now. All right, get me back on track here. Sorry.
Yeah, there was a lot of pressure on the Browns for sure. They definitely made many upgrades to that defense with John Johnson and Troy Hill and Greg Newsome and Clowney, so it does have a different look and feel, but absolutely a lot of pressure on those guys. Yeah, if you want to look at the numbers, Clowney has had a sack every 2.3 starts in his career, and Ingram has had a sack every 1.95 starts in his career. So Ingram's per game numbers are a little bit better than Clowney's.
All right.
To back up your point.
I think we got did we get through all of the pressers there, I think?
Unless there was anything else from those guys, but those were the players who spoke. Yesterday it was Ben, Walton, Tomlin. Today I think it's 4 people. Tomlin, Butler, Hayward, and someone I'm forgetting.
Juju.
Okay, so looking forward to that. Dave,
I'm sure we get some TikTok questions today.
Well, I will not be writing about those. I will defer.
Right.
Anything else from day one of camp that we missed and needed to touch on that we have not touched on yet?
I think we beat it up pretty good, Alex.
Yeah. I mean, obviously don't have the information that we are normally accustomed to. That will change next week. Again, we have also they added another practice on next Friday, I believe. We have tickets for that one as well. So we will be there. Also, again, if anyone could tell me the binoculars policy for Heinz Field, I don't think there's any sort of restriction or anything. I couldn't find anything, but if anyone who goes to Heinz Field, season ticket holder or something, could let me know. Also, I've had an adventure trying to find a backpack to wear. It's been a struggle, but that's fine.
Oh, you gonna become backpack boy?
Well,
that dance. What's that? Flossing dance?
Oh, gee. Dave, stop watching stuff on the internet. Just watch Steelers stuff. Don't you dare. No, I bought one from the Steelers team site because it said it was stadium approved, but it's like the smallest. You can't carry anything in there. And then I bought another one that's like a full-size backpack that's clear. You have to have a clear backpack, but it's too big. I realized it's too big to bring in the stadium. So I don't know. I'm struggling a little bit over here with the guy. I want St. Vincent. I just want some hungover college kid to look in my bag for 2 seconds and let me go on my merry way.
There you go.
All right, Dave. I think we should get to some read emails here and close out today's show.
Real quick here. Our roster predictions.
Oh, yeah. You want to go through?
Let's go over the change, the difference, because obviously we have a lot of these in common.
Yeah.
Let's go over some differences that we have here.
Sure. At quarterback, I think we're the same, right? You had Ben, Rudolph, and Haskins, correct?
Yeah, we had the same 3 there. However, either one of us punching any walls if for some reason Haskins doesn't get the number 3 job.
No, because it means he probably didn't play well to earn it. So that's understandable.
I guess what I'm getting at is neither one of us will be extremely shocked. But I think we still both have Dwayne Haskins in the driver's seat to get that number 3 spot. I think we both have. It's gonna be interesting to watch the practice squad, how it plays out. I don't think it's official yet, but I think it's trending towards 16 players like last year. Is that the sense that you're getting?
It has. It's at least 12. We know that's the minimum, but it could be 16 like last year. I haven't followed it too closely, but I think that's the expectation.
All right. Running back here, our first little, I think, set of differences here. And you've been talking up one Kalen Ballage a little bit here, and then you pulled a fast one on me here. You have, of course, Najee Harris, Anthony McFarland Jr., Benny Snell, and then Jalen Samuels, whereas I have those top 3, and I have Kalen Ballage. What went wrong?
Yeah, I mean, you guys know I've been really critical of Jalen Samuels, and it's not like I'm advocating for it. I think it's a great idea, but I just think in Matt Canada's offense, guys that are versatile, guys who can at least theoretically on paper catch the football. I think Samuels has been woefully inefficient there and has had too many drops, but in that sense, he can kind of be used more versatile than a Ballage plus. Canada coached him at NC State in 2015, and Samuels had a pretty good year down there. So there's a connection there, and I think that if Harris were to go down, you would want someone that could, again, theoretically catch the football, but use in some of those space type plays, the quick game, RPO game, stuff like that. And Snell and Ballage are pretty redundant skill sets. They're pretty similar guys in terms of what they offer your team, kind of plotter runners with some special teams coverage value, and so. Not that I would love it, but I could see Samuels making it for all those reasons.
Better pass protector and special teams player. Jalen Samuels, Kalen Ballage.
Ballage.
Right.
But
that's why I'm giving him
the
nod.
But who's the better fit in the offense?
Yeah, probably Samuels if he can catch the dadgummit today's Keith Butler day. Dadgummit football. Look, I've watched every snap that Jalen Samuels played at North Carolina State because of kind of the uniqueness. And is he a running back? Is he how they used him and moved him all over the field? I just at this point right now, I cannot pound the table for Jalen Samuels making this roster.
Yeah.
And look, I mean, Kalen Ballage. Look, I mean, he's on his 4th team for a reason, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
All right, so with that's where we're different there. We both have Derek Watt as the fullback. I think we both have the same 5 wide receivers. Juju, James Washington, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Ray McLeod. I think we had the same 3 tight ends as well too, right?
Yep. Ebron, Freiermuth, and Kevin Rader.
Do we have the same offensive lineman?
Yes, I believe so.
With the only real question there, I think, was Coward, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or would they keep a 10th guy like Austin Hour or now, I guess, Chaz Green?
All right, so no differences there. Defensive lineman, you pulled another fast one on me here as well too. You think the Steelers? You like the chances of Isaiah Loudermilk not making the 53-man roster this year?
Yeah.
I have basically the differences Alex and I have here when it comes to the 6 total defensive linemen is top five should be easy to figure out. Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt, Tyson Alualu, Carlos Davis, and Chris Wormley. Whereas Alex has Henry Mondeau and I have Isaiah Loudermilk sticking.
Yeah, this one I caught a lot of flack for sure, and I get that because they traded up for Loudermilk, needs a draft pick, et cetera, et cetera. But listen, what pick do we criticize the most throughout this whole process? Probably it was Isaiah Loudermilk, and just because you're a draft pick, and listen, I know they traded up for him and gave a future pick, but he was a 5th-round miss and 5th-round picks miss the roster all the time. I mean, that is very common in Pittsburgh and common across the NFL, and so I think Loudermilk is a solid player, but is he going to be a good enough athlete? I think they're going to realize that he has some of those limitations. Mondeau's a pretty good athlete. And to me, again, it comes down to the special teams value that Mondeau brings. He's going to have that coverage ability that no other defensive lineman on this team is going to have. And especially knowing that Melvin Ingram is not going to offer anything there, it's going to be more important to have other guys who can kind of wear those hats and be, L5 on kick coverage and stuff like that. And so I think that could give Mondeau the edge. Obviously, could Loudermilk make it? Absolutely. Is he probably the favorite right now? Sure. But I don't want to write that in pen, and we'll see what happens.
We got another difference in opinion here on the next position group, and that's the outside linebacker group, where you have them only keeping 4. I have them keeping 5 in total. The difference in the two of them there is out the door goes Cassius Marsh.
Right. Now, you did yours right before Vince retired. Now, you don't have Vince on your roster, so I don't know if it would have changed the equation for you at all. I'm guessing it probably wouldn't have. But, I just went with just Roche on there just because I felt like the depth at inside linebacker was better than the outside linebackers.
All right. I have Cassius Marsh on there as a special teams player there. So, I had Roche make it as well, too. So I have 5 outside linebackers. You have 4. Inside linebackers, now this is where it gets dicey. What are we going to call, Miles Killebrew here? But
right. They list him as a safety, so I'm just going to put Killebrew as a safety until.
And I think this time around I put him in it with the safety group as well, too, if memory serves me here.
Mm-hmm.
You have Ulysses Gilbert III making it. Whereas I had
him not making it.
I had him not making it, but I think I had him on my practice squad.
Yeah, if that back stays healthy for this next month, I think the talent's going to be enough to warrant him being on the roster. And I get the long-term concerns, and will that back ever hold up? Probably not. But if he plays well and he can hold up for 4 weeks, then I think he's got the talent to make it. And he proved himself that he can play on special teams as well, briefly in his NFL career.
I took the I want to see it approach. I like I said, I spoke quite positive about him in a terrible take the other day. That if he could stay healthy, man. Because how many special teams tackles alone did he have there before he went down? I think last year, was it, or was it the year before? It's obviously been 2 years that he's had the issues though. But was it last year that he started off on fire and leading the team in special teams tackles, or right there close to it at the top? So he's got the eye of one Danny Smith, just on the special teams aspect alone there. I got to see it, man. I got to see him stay on the field a little bit here.
Yeah, no, that's completely fair. But if he does, I think he's got the talent to grab a spot.
All right, so where did we differ there?
You had Marsh, I had UG3 in terms of the linebackers as a whole.
So that's a shakeout. There is you're keeping Ulysses Gilbert 3 over Marsh.
Yeah,
that's where we differ.
But I probably should keep Marsh because he was a good sport, responding to one of my jokey tweets about him. So respect to him for that.
And also, neither one of us obviously don't have either one of us have Vince Williams on here, but I'm the one that gets the extra credit here because mine was made before yours, before the news about Vince Williams.
Yeah, I don't get much credit for doing it after he retired. I don't think.
I want the extra two style points here.
You get the gold star.
All right, good deal. I'll take it. Cornerbacks. I think we're in.
No, we're different.
we're different here. I have one more. I have them keeping one more than you do. We have the same initial 5: Joe Hayden, Cam Sutton, James Pierre, Arthur Mollett, and Shakir Brown. I think I have them keeping Lane, if memory serves.
You do, yeah. You have Justin Lane. I have him off the team entirely. Could he make it? Sure. This is do or die for Justin Lane. Had a terrible take about that earlier in the offseason, but he just hasn't shown much. They've talked up Pierre, and so, if you have Hayden and Sutton and Pierre and Lane in year, what is he going into, year 3, year 4, whatever it is, and not even being a top 3 corner on this team, but there's some opportunities, maybe it's time to move on.
All right, and I think really the difference here in the defensive backs as a whole is I have them keeping Justin Lane as a 6th quarterback, whereas you have Donovan Steiner, the undrafted rookie free agent, making it as a 5th safety, whereas I think I have 4 safeties right now.
I did add the caveat that I believe they're going to bring in somebody from the outside at some point, so Steiner's kind of the placeholder for a free agent, and of course you could put Trey Norwood there as well, but I think Steiner's a bigger, more physical guy, better special teamer, so I think they'll add a 5th safety at some point, but yeah, that was the difference.
All right, and I as well think that there's still a probability of another safety being added here.
And then specialists, we are the same with Boz, Presley Harvin III, and Cameron Canada.
All right, so we've got about four or five differences there.
Yeah, it's fairly different for the start of camp. Usually these things become more aligned as you get closer to the start of the season, so we'll see how the next ones look. But yeah, I think some good differences for us to talk and debate about.
All right, now there was something else. Were we going to get to the position groups? Or what?
Oh yeah, that's what I had O-line written down. I couldn't remember why I did, so I'll have to kind of go through those a little bit quicker so the show doesn't go on for too long here. But our positional preview with training camp already starting with the offensive line, projected starters. For week 1 against Buffalo, a core for Dotson, Green, Turner, and Banner. Is that kind of your read on the situation?
I definitely think Dotson can do it. Kendrick Green can do it, and I think that's really the only question mark.
Again, it's so hard to glean reports yesterday because of media rules and restrictions, but it almost sounded like Dan Moore was getting first team reps at left tackle yesterday. I don't know if that's true, if there's a rotation or what the case was, but someone made a reference to him potentially starting the Hall of Fame game. I have no idea if that's true.
And I think it's plausible because you're trying to get a lot of those backups in there in that first game there. So I that's one that if it does happen, I wouldn't read too much into it at all. With him starting the Hall of Fame game there. So we'll have to see how that ultimately shakes out.
So, yeah, in terms of what's the number one thing you think Kendrick Green has to do in order to be the starting center for week 1?
Stay healthy.
Okay, this is number 2, beyond obvious.
Just get a good grasp of those line calls and knowing what he sees on the other side there and getting them in and out of the things that that oftentimes a center needs to do there. The bar's low, man, and I've said that for a while. To me, personally, I would be more concerned if he didn't, just because the bar is so damn low. The rent's too damn high.
That's a reference for you. No, I get that. And I think, the mental aspect of it, the centers have to be the smartest guy on that line. They got to know everything that's going on. And for a rookie, underclassmen to make that jump is asking a lot, but it certainly can be done. For me, it's just him staying on his feet, not being on the ground, not being inconsistent, just having good balance. And if he does that, if he stays on his feet, then that probably means he's playing well. If he's on the ground a lot, I think we're going to see some of those issues that I saw at Illinois.
Yeah, he was overly aggressive, and being overly aggressive at times, wanting to little man syndrome, often caused him to play really outside of his balance and his frame,
right.
And that did indeed. There are times where he was on the ground because I really chalk it all up to being overly aggressive. But then again, as Tomlin will say, you rather say whoa than sick 'em, So it probably won't be surprising to see him kind of pretty hyped up in that Hall of Fame game and maybe be overly aggressive a time or two and match his college tape.
Yeah, I think that's true. But just overall, can you see the improvement as he settles down and kind of gets real comfortable with playing snaps in the NFL? One guy I'm really excited to see, and hopefully we see a decent amount of him. Obviously, coming off the injury, it's probably be eased into things as you mentioned earlier, Dave. But Zach Banner, just because I still don't know a lot about Zach Banner as an NFL offensive tackle. I know him as a reporting eligible, as a person. But as an offensive tackle, as a right tackle, the tape is just so limited. So I really want to just get eyes on him for a full preseason.
Really, there's still a lot we don't know about the new Zach Banner because really some of the you go back to his college tape, he's a different person now. Mm-hmm. Body shape. I mean, all of it there. Obviously, more experience from a practice standpoint as well too there. But yeah, you're right. I mean, we think we have an idea of what to expect here, but we got to see that over more than just the 50-something snaps or whatever it was last year they played against the Giants, I tell you what, I hope him and Trey Turner spend a lot of time early in camp side by side getting some mental reps with some communication standpoint there, So I think that's a big factor in there as well, too. How are these two going to handle – how is the whole group going to handle those twisting stunts? Right. Passing them off and all, that's a key thing in this. I mean, it's easier to coach it up and say, each individual did fine in college or wherever they were at last time there, but this group's playing together, and that part of getting that feel of knowing when to pass off and not, you can get your quarterback knocked out of a game in a hurry if you don't do that right. Yeah. Can they stay on the same levels? That's something that I learned a couple of years ago. Not only making sure you pass that stuff off right though, but as a group of five or as a group of two or three or however you're passing some things off at times on some of these games, are you staying on the same level? Because you get somebody on the wrong level, then you're going to create as Vince Lombardi would say, you have a seal here and a seal, and an open lane here. Mm-hmm. That's part of that. You get into talking about the newness of this offensive line. A lot of people don't go that deep into some of those other little things that you just hit on. The balance with a Kendrick Green, the communication factor, not only between Banner and Trey Turner, but on the other side with a Okorafor and Kevin Dotson. Because those two have barely been next to each other going back to last season. They got a little bit of time on the right side together there, I think, with DeCastro missed time. But, that's a key component to this.
Definitely, yeah. I'm as concerned, if not more concerned, with the group as a whole as I am with the individual players, because if you're going to run, zone blocking scheme, rules about who's covered, who's uncovered, being able to combo and, when to release and get to the second level, it's all about timing and communication and being on the same page and seeing the same stuff in an instant at the snap of the football, where the head of the defensive lineman goes, the linebacker, whoever the guy is. And so that'll be important. But yeah, for Banner and for Trey Turner, Dave, if this Steelers run game is going to get better, it's going to be starting with those two guys, with Turner and Banner. Those are two big guys, two powerful guys. They can definitely move people. They've shown moments of that. Turner when healthy, Banner, in preseason and some limited regular season snaps. So if this run game is going to improve and seriously get better, it's going to be off the right side and behind Trey Turner and Zach Banner.
And Kevin Dotson better get them hamstrings greased up because going to be on the move. I'm going to see me the pulling guard. Better see me some pulling guard on the move this year, because if you look back at Trey Turner, at least in his most recent tape, not a lot of tape of him, pulling. Mm-hmm. a lot. Can he do it? Yeah. But with his age and all, you're right. They're going to be a right-handed team, and part of that is pulling that left guard over to that side as well too. And are they going to be able to run any pin and pulls on that side? Is that going to be something that with Trey Turner and Banner, can they work that kind of stuff out along with whatever tight ends on that side there? That's another element there. If they're going to run more outside zone, I go back to some of the conversations I had with Chris Hoke over the years too. That's got to be like a chorus line out there, man.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be in step with each other, and not only that, you got to know when it's okay for you to turn that thing back inside. I'm really interested to watch Kendrick Green and his reach ability, because there were some times he was reaching like 4 techs, not just 3 techs. His ability to get over there and reach and get in front, not only get in front but turn was pretty impressive, and I think that played a large part in just the limited time he got at center at Illinois, and again in the Steelers specifically saying, hey. This guy can play center in the NFL, those kind of things there. Dotson, I'm expecting the moon out of Dotson this year, to be honest with you. I'm really pumped about him in his second season. We've already hit on talking about a core 4 and how beneficial, if anything, will that move to the more natural side, his left side, be? That's something there. And then obviously you have Banner and not really knowing truly who he is at this point in his career, coming off of a serious knee injury.
Yeah, like I've said before, I think the one thing you can expect that all these offensive linemen have to be able to do is to move in space. Being a good athlete, and like you said, reaching and those cutoff blocks, front side, back side, are going to be really important. And that's why I think Green is going to be the starter at center, because he's going to be able just to make blocks and get the spots that BJ Finney or JC Hassenauer just simply are not able to do. But can Green find that consistency? If he does that, then you got a really good athlete and a consistent player. You got something potentially special. But I'm just worried about the variance in Green's game, where there's going to be some highs, there'll be some impressive plays, but can he avoid those negative plays as well?
We talked about Chaz Green at the top of the show and what he is and isn't, so I don't think we should spend time there. Joe Haig, I think, is a guy that we've talked to quite a bit since he was signed. A tackle that can play guard. I would much rather if he has to play any tackle at all. I think the right side is better of two sides. Can play some guard in the pinch. You think we'll see any Joe Haig at guard in any of the preseason games? I'm kind of doubting it.
Yeah, I doubt it. I mean, maybe a little bit just to get him some reps there in case it has to happen in season. But they'll have enough numbers at guard that I think he'll be primarily a tackle. And, I mean, he'll be a tackle eligible during the season. I guess maybe you could see some of that, maybe like the tune-up game where he comes in as a 6th offensive lineman and gets some snaps there, because you want to have him get some reps in that particular position before the season begins, but it'll probably be mostly a tackle.
Dan Moore Jr., I mean, yeah, we talked earlier in the show about him potentially maybe getting to start in the Hall of Fame game at left tackle, but I think we're going to see him play both sides. Going to be interesting to evaluate his tape moving forward into the preseason. Some of the also-rans here. Brandon Walton, Florida Atlantic kid. I think he was around a little bit last year there. John LeGlue is another one, big kid out of Tulane. Didn't I see a shot where he was maybe at some guard? Didn't I say that I thought maybe I saw him at guard, or was that Coyle?
I think that was there? Coyle. I saw LeGlue at right tackle yesterday in the clip. Yeah, Coyle was at right guard. Coyle was a guy who's played some tackle, played some guard. Very brief cup of coffee last year with the Steelers. And Avonte Collins, I think, is an interesting athlete. Maybe a good
another tackle guard.
Tackle guard. Yeah, tackle at TCU, played some guard in the NFL. That could be a potential sleeper. And then, of course, we got to mention Rashad Coward, a big lump of clay that I think Clem's going to really like. But again, kind of like Kendrick Green, can you find that consistency? Because his tape is very much up and down.
Rashad Coward, the more kind of stuff I watch on him, which is obviously limited there, I don't want to put him in the same breath of Trey Turner, but I think from body type, a very physical dude. Okay, let's put it that way. And if there's one thing that sticks out, look, they got some some aggressive dudes on that offensive line depth chart, and Rashad Coward is an extremely aggressive dude. So sometimes I think technique goes out the door there when you just bar fight, but. He is an aggressive player there. We're gonna only see him at guard, right? He's only gonna be at guard.
He's played some tackle. I wouldn't be shocked if he got some snaps at right tackle or something to increase that versatility. I think it'll be primarily a guard, though, for sure. He's a guy that, again, is still pretty new to the position. Only got converted to O-line from being a defensive lineman in college and early in the NFL just a couple of years ago. So there's a lot of work in progress there. So I don't want to say that he's not even close to what he could be, his potential, but controlling himself and finding balance, finding consistency, being a refined player will be important for him this summer.
Going to be learning about a lot of these guys in the Hall of Fame game too, and Coward's included in that bunch. Coyle, Chad, not Chaz Green, LeGlue, Brandon Walton are all guys that I think we're going to see a lot and learn a lot about in the first couple of preseason games.
Should mention J.C. Hassenauer as well, a guy that played 300-something snaps last year for the Steelers. Not the favorite to be the starting center, but, he's a guy with some experience now, and that's something a lot of these guys we just mentioned don't have, at least not in a Steelers uniform.
Is there a chance at all he does not make the 53-man roster?
Hassenauer?
Yeah.
We both had him off our 53, so I guess that's kind of our expectation. I think he's on the bubble. But I think you have Green, you have Finney. Hassenauer, I think to me, he can play guard, but he's really just a center to me. So, I think practice squad, though, probably for him. All right, Dave, that's probably our review of the Steelers' offensive line. We'll flip to defense for Tuesday. Are we going back to what's the schedule next week look like for the show?
Yeah, I guess we got to start back on the you want to let's see, the Hall of Fame, maybe after the Hall of Fame game, so we can get right to that Monday after the Hall of Fame game. So obviously this, a future pre-production meeting could change this. But if you're listening for as of right now, I would say it's probably safe that we'll do a show on Tuesday of next week, Friday of next week. And obviously, once training camp, we'll have the nightly updates as well too. And then the week, the Monday after the Hall of Fame game, then I guess we're back to 3 days a week there.
Okay, good deal. So 2 next week. Then we'll change that for the future. All right, so let's get to some reader emails here quickly and close out today's show, Dave.
Bryce wants us to talk about Najee and nose tackles. As far as Najee Harris and the run game goes, his prediction is that for the season, it will go a little bit like it went for the Steelers in 2013. Run game was below average overall, but had its moments because of a good back and the offensive coordinator using tempo to give below average offensive line a little bit of an edge. I see the same thing for these 2021 Steelers when it comes to the running the football. He asked our thoughts on that. I tell you, my thoughts on this is 50% run success rate. That's my thoughts. If you consider run game below average overall, then you're telling me that the run success rate will be under 50% for the season. I'm probably right on that. And maybe it's the wishful thinking aspect of it. I'm probably right on the 50% number. So could it be below average overall and there be some bright spots mixed in there and maybe kind of resembles 2013? I mean, we're grab bagging here on this offensive line to start things off, man. That's why we're that's why the negative connotations there. And Najee Harris is going to help, I think, the running game in some degree, but how much, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was asked yesterday in my Steelers mailbag what are my stat predictions for Harris in year one. My very arbitrary, don't hold me to it numbers are he plays 16 games, 277 carries, 1,141 yards. That's 4.12 yards per carry. 8 rushing touchdowns with 61 receptions with another 3 scores. So I think he'll have a good year, but dependent on the play of this offensive line.
He says, should we be a little worried about depth at nose tackle? Tyson Alualu suffers a major injury, like the corner position with Hayden. There's a lot of unproven talent behind Alualu. Out of Bugs, Dixon.
Davis? I mean,
I think
Dixon.
he says Dixon here in the email, but I think he means Davis. And the rest of the nose tackle types, who do you think has the most potential for a breakout season? There has been nothing hardly written or Carlos Davis is one of those ones I was hoping they would have some sort of, off-season interview with, or Mike Tomlin be asked about Carlos Davis at some point during the offseason, and that just never happened. And we're talking about a second-year kid here, too. And you go back to Carlos Davis and those 60-whatever snaps alone in the game against the Dallas Cowboys, I thought that was some nice tape he put out there. Not overwhelming, overall, but there were some positives in that game there. To me, he is the clear-cut guy to be the backup to Tyson Alualu. Now, would there obviously be some concerns if Alualu went down? Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm going to be watching Carlos Davis a ton during the preseason, Bugs is in the Jalen Samuels room for me right now.
In what sense?
Just I'm not seeing it. I cannot pound the table for Isaiah Bugs to be on this 53-man roster.
I think he's a lot more talented of a defensive lineman than Samuels is a running back. The question's always been weight issues, consistency, assignment, above the neck type of stuff, it seems like, with him. So I think if he gets it sounds kind of harsh, but if he gets his act together, like, he has the talent to make it on this roster, make it in the NFL, but it just feels like it hasn't quite all come together for him, and now there's a lot of competition along that defensive line.
I will say this, too, about the Alualu and Carlos Davis, assuming those are you two there. Hopefully, Carlos Davis shows you enough early on, the remainder of this offseason, that you can maybe take it a little, maybe even if it's 2 snaps less a game, with Tyson Alualu. Try to get him off the field just a tiny bit more. I mean, because he's another year older. Look, he's outraced Father Time. Just incredible what he's done the last couple seasons. But how far do you want to keep pushing that? Pushing it to the edge on that there. So kind of my hope is that Davis gets that extra 3 or 4 snaps maybe right out of the chute in 2021.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot. And that's another guy we'll be watching very closely who will hopefully get a ton of snaps this preseason, because obviously Alualu does not need a lot of reps right now.
Let me find us one more. We actually got some questions in here, and I hate when I miss some of these people. Zach Prosba, first off, glad to have Camp back and even more content from the best team on the web. Regarding the decision to start Brooks at slot corner for a Hall of Fame game, how does that affect the safety and cornerback depth chart in your minds? Definitely hard to get a read on it being a Hall of Fame game with guys like Hayden and maybe Sutton not playing, but clearly Brooks in the first line of the job over the others have been mentioned. That have been mentioned more. You want to address the whole safety and cornerback depth chart based on what we know right now?
Yeah, I mean, A, we know very little, and B, the depth chart just doesn't seem to mean a whole lot this time in the season. I mean, Hayden's not going to play in the Hall of Fame game. If Sutton plays, it'll be probably just a couple snaps for a series or two, so you'll have probably Lane and Pierre as your outside corners to start, or basically start, and then Brooks in the slot, and we'll see how it goes from there. But that's my thought of it. And then at safety, I mean, Minka's not going to play. I mean, I wouldn't play Edmonds. I mean, maybe in a series or two. And so behind that, I mean, it's kind of up in the air. It's maybe Killebrew, maybe Norwood. I mean, we'll have to just get eyes on it. I mean, it's really hard to give a good answer right now after one day of training camp.
Yeah, we hate to sound so, I don't know, uneducated. I'm the one that sounds uneducated, but I mean, it's just we're going to have to paint this picture together as we go.
Right.
I mean, quite honestly here, and yeah, a Hall of Fame game, we're going to be evaluating a lot of back into the roster players there. So the little bits and pieces I think that Alex picks up during training camp practice, is going to help play, I believe, in kind of an integral part in painting this picture. But I mean, I'm just trying to be quite honest with the listeners, Alex. Here, I mean, there's a lot that we have to learn about just the defensive back depth chart as a whole as we move through this thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of youth, and I said this. We said this before the camp began. There's a lot of opportunity, a lot of paths for these guys, but someone's got to take hold of it, and we don't know who that's going to be right now. It could be 5 different guys, and so I think we'll have to just kind of take it day by day and game by game, and see how these guys step up and who emerges.
One more from brother George O'Dottery, a long time listener up there in Boston, Massachusetts, at Northeastern University there. George writes in, it's always good to hear from George. Hi, guys. If healthy, do you think Malik Hooker could be the next Will Allen on the Steelers defense? I always thought the backup safeties played important roles on the Steelers defense when the defense was good. E.g., example, Will Allen and Tyrone Carter. Boy, remember Tyrone Carter? Mm-hmm. With Donnie Shell and Troy Polamalu entering the Hall of Fame, I started thinking about the other great Steelers safeties like Mike Wagner, Carnell Lake, Chris Hope, and Ryan Clark. These thoughts eventually led to the thought, who is the Steelers' greatest backup safety? My vote would be for Will Allen or maybe Tyrone Carter. If I remember correctly, Will Allen kind of replaced Tyrone Carter with both players, likely key roles on the defense as backup. Carter only played a couple of years under Tomlin, but it seemed to me that Will Allen had a special relationship with Tomlin. Maybe this is my OSU bias coming out, but I would imagine a healthy Malik Hooker playing this role. I would really be disappointed that Sean Davis was, he says he was really disappointed that Sean Davis was not able to do this. Loves the show, particularly like hearing from the entire Depot team. All right, roll all that up.
I mean, trying to compare Malik Hooker, a guy not on the roster yet, to a longtime veteran like Allen, I think Hooker is just going to would be strong depth, and there'll be concerns about him coming off a torn Achilles, but I think would make you feel better about your safety depth than where you are today. Just in the way the Ingram signing makes you feel a whole lot better about that position group, top to bottom. In terms of the best backup safeties, I think Allen. I thought Tyrone Carter was super underrated. Some really good plays in his career. Will Allen worked with Tomlin in Tampa, and those guys always had a close relationship together. I mean, they're like the same age in Tampa, basically.
Very smart guy.
Yeah.
Very, very smart defensive mind guy.
Yeah, so those are some good names. But trying to compare Hooker to the next Will Allen, a veteran guy like that, it's tough to do.
Yeah, Malik Hooker's yet another. If they do, look, they have the cap room. If they want Malik Hooker, and assuming this salary of $2.5 million or less, which I envision that kind of taking to get it done with him there, it's another guy's got to stay on the field, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he's been banged up throughout his career, but obviously pedigree. Kevin Colbert likes pedigree there. I won't be shocked if maybe they get something done with Hooker. Can we? I think they get somebody still not on this 90-man roster. I believe will be added and wind up on the 53-man roster. How's that? And I bet it's a safety. Right. I don't know if it's going to be Malik Hooker, but I can envision it being a safety and one that specifically can get tied to the post.
Yeah, I'm with you. I agree.
All right, good stuff. Good hearing from George. Thanks for everybody that emailed the show. Unfortunately, time's running short here. Our 2-hour tour has come to an end here. So until Tuesday, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button up right navigational bar. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, please go to SteelersDepot.com. And for $25 for one calendar year, you can have an ad-free version of the site. Good job today, Alex. Thanks for keeping me propped up here. Until Tuesday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.